Welcome back to the People's Cabinet. Okay, Donald Trump and his team are waging a coordinated attack to redefine what it means to be American and exclude immigrants, in particular, Americans who are foreign born. Let me tell you a little bit more about what I mean by that. So, this first caught my eye when President Trump was interviewed by CNBC, and he said this.
Last week, it did show a 1.7 million drop off of foreign-born workers from March to July.
And that's a great number, by the way. That's a great number because it means we're putting Americans to work.
Again, he mentioned it was a good thing that foreign-born workers were getting fewer jobs. Now, there are more than 40 million people who are not born in the U.S. in the United States. Depending on how you measure it, about 20 million or so are American citizens. So by saying foreign born, it's a good thing. You are alluding to American citizens who are not born in the United States, that it's a good thing that they are not getting jobs. That is objectively true by his rhetoric. So I did a video about that when I was on the David Pakman show, but I noticed Kevin Hassett saying something when the jobs numbers came out, both on CNBC and on Fox. Let me play them back to back.
Again, in this jobs report, there were very good news, right? All of the job creation was private sector. Government jobs are down about 100,000 since President Trump took office, and it was all native-born workers that were getting the jobs. And within the jobs report we got today, there are a lot of really interesting and positive patterns. Thing one is that all the job creation is private sector job creation. Government workers are actually, their employment declined by 100,000. All of the job creation is native-born workers, whereas about half of the job creation under Biden was foreign-born workers. And so there are a lot of real positive things to see.
So as you can see, he is reiterating the same rhetoric that Donald Trump is, that native-born workers getting more jobs is an absolute good thing, and it means that foreign-born workers losing jobs or what have you is a bad thing. I thought that this was interesting because it showed that, when you're in the White House, every little piece, every little talking point that you have is coordinated. Nothing gets out really without some script or some messaging that is at least given to your team. And then I noticed JD Vance, actually a couple of weeks earlier, saying something that had a similar theme to it.
Put very simply, we're trying to make America great for Americans again. This country was built by your grandparents, by your parents, by your forebears. You ought to have the right to live a good life in this country that wouldn't even exist were it not for the hard work of so many generations who came before us. They didn't put in that work. They didn't build this great country. They didn't carve the greatest civilization in the history of the world out of a wilderness so that their ancestors and their descendants could see it fall into disrepair.
So again, it's subtle and maybe on its own not as surprising. But when you look at the entirety of what was happening, you realize what he's trying to do. So he is saying, we are trying to make America great for Americans again. Again, as everyone knows, and as many ancestors who came to this country, a lot of Americans become citizens through immigration. But what he alludes to is this is for your grandparents, your parents who built this country, essentially, is what he is saying. Obviously, that does not apply to many foreign-born Americans whose grandparents were not in this country, like many of the ancestors of JD Vance, I am sure, as well as many who are very close to him. This is subtle dog whistle language to send a very clear message to the United States of who this administration is fighting for. They are not fighting for all Americans. They are fighting for the Americans that they see are intergenerational and the ones that they want to stand by, and have created some kind of narrative that the people who are new to America should not be a part of America. This is not just in the rhetoric that I just cited. You are seeing this in a much larger set of policies by the administration. And I won't go through all of them right now, but you can make allusions to the fact, for example, that the president has continuously tried to defund and threaten universities, in particular with Harvard, with foreign students, right? The illusion being that foreign students shouldn't be allowed to go to Harvard. And again, it is a part of a protectionism. It is part of an isolationism that Donald Trump is trying to espouse in all of the work that he is doing. i.e., if someone comes to the United States, gets an education, they should not be welcome in the same way that someone who has been here for a very long time should. You're also seeing this from the endless attack the president has on diversity, equity, inclusion. A lot of these programs would be resulting not just for immigrants, but for people who are of different races or ethnicities in the United States to have more of a chance. He is ending those programs in the name of some kind of equality or Americanism that I just don't share. Um, there's also a lot in the rhetoric that the president has said. He has said that undocumented immigrants are, quote, poisoning the blood of our country as if this were some kind of race war. And there are people around MAGA. By the way, this is also a president who, in July of 2019, tweeted that 4 Democratic congresswomen of color, 3 of whom were native-born Americans, should, quote, go back from the countries in which they came. This is a president who has initiated travel bans on certain Muslim countries, regardless if someone has any kind of criminal or suspicion of record, which is concerning. He is the person who has referred to Haiti, El Salvador, and several African nations as, quote, shithole countries. This is an entire messaging campaign from the administration that if you're of a certain race or if you're an immigrant to this country, unless it's from the countries that Donald Trump likes, you are not welcome. We are also seeing this in a lot of the rhetoric from his allies. Let me bring up American AX, 650,000 followers, claims to be just a dude with an iPhone. And again, I had made a reference to the fact before othering Zora Mamdani, claiming that New York is no longer an American city because of the foreign-born population. That's what Matt Walsh is saying. And so this rhetoric has continued with the right, with the dog whistle enablement of Donald Trump. This guy tweeted a picture of Omar Fateh, who is running for mayor in Minneapolis. This is not an American, okay? 15 million views on X with no community note. Why do I object, especially to the community note statement? Because this man was born in Washington, D.C. He is an American citizen. There is nothing about him that is not American. The only reason why he is saying this is because he is a black man who looks different than the typical white person that he is probably imagining in his head. And it is hook, line, and sinker racist bullshit. But look what's happening on social media. This has 86,000 likes. Do you really believe that that's because people don't like Somalia or anything like that? No, it's because he's black. It's because he looks different. And this permission structure that MAGA has set up is allowing 86,000 people to like it, 6.7 thousand people to retweet. It's absolutely effing disgusting and has no place in our conversation. And here's the larger point that I think people don't realize or don't seem to appreciate. And I should also mention one other thing. This is a president who has cut off foreign aid, right? That's another aspect of his isolationism. He believes that the United States does not need to be administering foreign aid, when in reality, some of our biggest competitors are just filling the gap. So when these developing countries, when conflict happens, you know who they're going to more want to ally themselves with, not the United States that literally cut off funding to them. And the last thing I want to say, the irony for MAGA vilifying people and immigrants is that the very reason why we are here is because immigration is our strength. We are known to be the melting pot of the world. It is not even close, the diversity numbers of the United States relative to some of our larger economies. In China, 91% of the population is Han Chinese. In Russia, 81% is ethnic Russian, and a lot of the other ethnicities there are people of the former USSR. In India, 75 to 80%. In the United States, more than 40% of the population is of color, is non-white. And if you look at the history of the United States, we have had a significant number of foreign-born population of immigrants that have continued to be a part of the engine of our society, the diversity of our country working together to truly make America great. So this dog whistle culture that MAGA has enabled that seems to be wanting to allow people to openly exclude not just undocumented people, but immigrants writ large, to other them, to tweet out that they're not Americans when they were born in Washington, D.C., just because they look different, is the kind of rhetoric and the kind of bullshit that will tank our economy, that will completely counteract the very exceptionalism that makes us so great. Statistically, the numbers don't lie on this. So we need to keep on this. We need to not let it slide. And we need to call out every time we hear what I believe and what millions believe to be truly anti-American sentiment coming from MAGA. We hope you enjoyed this episode of the People's Cabinet. If you did, please like, subscribe, ring that bell, and tell us who else you would like to see sworn in. And let us know in the comments what other topics you'd like us to cover. Let's go.